Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. So, two different national outlets, Colin Cowherd on Fox Sports and Dan Patrick, are reporting that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are considering merging into one super conference. So basically that Notre Dame is also being considered, but that Notre Dame wants to go to the ACC because that makes sense unless the ACC merges with the SEC. Now, I don't know if any of this actually happens. This could just be rumors, stuff being leaked out, conversations being had that won't actually lead to anything, but this could be just one of two things. One, it could be just a pissing contest between the Big Ten and the SEC. SEC gets Texas and Oklahoma, and then the Big Ten says, oh yeah, well, we're going to get USC and Notre Dame and all the other Pac-12 schools. And then the SEC says, yeah, well, we're going to merge with Clemson and Florida State and Miami and a bunch of other ACC schools. It could be that. Or this is just about doing what's always, what was inevitable and stop delaying the inevitable. And maybe it's just a part of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and their Rose Bowl contract and them wanting to stay together because it's very important to them. Could be that. Or it's both. Now, I've heard so many people ask the question, well, how can you have a 24-team conference? That's just too many teams. It's tough enough to do 16. How are you going to do more? Well, A, who said anything about a 24-team conference? Okay. All people have been talking about with this whole expansion stuff, with this whole realignment stuff, they've been saying one of two things. Oh, it's all about money. It's all about money. Oh, all this is about money. Hey, you know what this is about? Follow the money. Or they've been saying, well, I don't know how this is going to work out. This is so crazy, so unprecedented. It's either it's all about money or it's unprecedented. That's the kind of crap that the media has just been spewing to you without giving you any real substance. Well, I'm going to give you some substance today. I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to give you a prediction of what it's actually going to look like 10 years from now. Nick Diaz is going to look into his crystal ball, and he's going to tell you 10 years from now or more, here's what college football is going to be, okay? College football, I believe, in 10 years from now, will have one main giant super league. Not conference, league. So it could have one or two or three or even four conferences of 16 or more teams, but one big super league of just football, just the football teams. So it could be not 64 or 65, which is all the Power 5 teams plus Notre Dame and BYU put together. It's 32 to 40 teams in one league. The elites of the elites. So if the Pac-12 wants to merge with the Big Ten, they're going to say, hey, we're kicking out Utah, Oregon State, Rutgers. SEC merges with the ACC. We're kicking out Missouri, Vanderbilt, Wake Forest, Duke. We're kicking out all of these no names in all of college football, and just be a junior NFL league. 32 to maybe 40 teams, one league, maybe two or three super conferences. That's what I think is going to be. But East Coast versus West Coast, how are you going to do the traveling with, a Big Ten team playing a West Coast team? Well, the NFL does it with the AFC and NFC. They play mostly on their coast. So if, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the remaining, Power 5 schools in the SEC and ACC just want to get together and kick all the Rutgers and Missouris and Vanderbilts out of the equation, well, then they'll just play most of their conference games, all conference games, in just their region. And so travel won't be a big of a deal. I mean, they do it in the NFL. Why can't they do it here? Pac, 12 teams or West Coast teams, I guess in this sense, would just play mostly West Coast teams and occasionally have cross-country home and homes with Southern teams and Eastern teams and Midwest teams and Southwest teams. Same thing in the NFL. But what about other sports like basketball that have to travel or swimming or diving? How are you going to do that? Who said anything about other sports? Okay, here's what I mean. It's just football. Just football. Well, how would that be possible? Well, we've been doing it for years and years. Notre Dame only plays football independent. They play basketball in the ACC. They play other sports in the ACC, and they play hockey in the Big Ten. Remember the old Big East with basketball for years and years? They had a football league and a basketball league. Football, you remember all the teams like Pitt and Rutgers and UConn and even Miami to a certain extent. But their basketball league, which had all of those other teams as well, they had Villanova. They didn't play in the football Big East. St. John's didn't play in the football Big East. Georgetown didn't play in the football Big East. DePaul, Marquette, Providence, Seton Hall. They just played their basketball in the Big East. They played their football at a Division II level. They weren't even Division I, and they were playing Division I basketball, but Division II football. Same thing with Notre Dame. Notre Dame used to be in the Big East in a lot of sports. So when I say kick Vanderbilt out of this Super League of football, Vanderbilt and every other conference, they will still stay in the SEC in every other sport. Every other sport will remain the same. You'll still have 12 or hell, maybe even 14 teams if they add a few more in the Pac-12. You'll still have the 16 teams in the SEC playing in each other in every single sport. It's just the top 32 to 40 football jobs and football brands playing together. Not programs. Notice I didn't say programs, but moneymakers and brands in college football. That's why Texas and Florida State would be involved in this, even though they are nowhere near top 10, top 15, top 20 programs today in college football. It's about moneymakers. It's about brands. It's about jobs. Texas and Florida State are still great jobs. The problem is that they don't have great coaches or haven't had great coaches in a while. That's what it means. Because when you get the right coach, you can win there. They will break away these 32 to 40 teams or football brands that are capable of playing and winning national championships. They will break away and do their own thing in their own super league, a junior NFL, 32 to 40 teams, and they will schedule their league as such. Rutgers stays in the Big Ten in every sport, kind of like the old Big East in football and basketball. There's your prediction 10 years from now. So staying in college football, I want to talk about David Shaw, the head football coach out in Stanford. David Shaw is being a whiny little bitch. So David Shaw was asked about Bryce Young, the soon-to-be starting quarterback for the University of Alabama, getting name, image, and likeness deals in 7 figures, over reportedly $100 million if you believe Nick Saban. And David Shaw was asked about this, and David Shaw responded saying, quote, "I don't believe that's what this whole thing is supposed to be about. A kid gets a 7-figure deal before he even starts a game. That's fair market value? I don't think that's fair value. I don't think that's fair market value. That's Alabama value. It's supposed to be value for an individual, and that's what this is supposed to be about." End quote. See, people have different definitions or understanding of the word fairness, but this is what fairness is supposed to be and technically is. Fairness means if I'm better than you, then I get more than you. Kind of like how if you're a better football team coach on the field and someone kicks your ass, they get more than you because they're better than you. People don't really understand what fair actually means. It's not supposed to be deemed Alabama value, he says. Well, it's not supposed to be Alabama value. It's the individual's value. Yeah, you're right, coach. It means more at Alabama. And that individual was deemed good enough to get a scholarship at Alabama and to be named the starter at Alabama before the season started. As a coach, you as an individual, you won more games and you got a pay raise at Stanford, and you got a certain raise before you even coached a game at Stanford. Well, he hasn't started a game, and this is different from an NFL rookie who hasn't started a game. How? They get paid, and this is different from the workplace. How? How is this different? How is that any different? The mind-numbing groupthink that we have about college athletics knows no bounds. I don't understand why everything else in the workplace, in every other profession, in every other professional sport, why that is just totally accepted, but we say fair market value, someone getting paid, someone who's better getting paid more, someone who's more experienced getting paid more. Somehow we just freak the fuck out when it comes to college athletics. You want to educate the student athletes to be better citizens out in the world? Because, hey, football ain't forever, right? You want to teach them? Good. Then if you do this, when they get a job in the real world and someone pays them less than someone else, they'll understand more about it. Also, if I may, Bryce Young, the quarterback at Alabama, he's from California, and he chose to go to Alabama over USC and Stanford. But I'm sure that had nothing to do with it for David Shaw. So the NBA draft is tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about NBA. The NBA draft is tomorrow. The New Orleans Pelicans have moved down to the 17th pick. And ESPN and The Ringer, who they, very obsessed with their NBA mock drafts, they've both updated their mock drafts. And both ESPN and The Ringer have the Pelicans taking LSU shooting guard Cam Thomas with the 17th pick. Both of them do. So first off, the Pelicans may trade the 17th pick before tomorrow. Hell, they could trade it before I finish recording this podcast. But there are two ways that you could look at this if they do indeed keep the 17th pick and they do indeed draft LSU Cam Thomas. One, from a basketball sense, the Pelicans need two things, shooting and defense. What does Cam Thomas give you? Shooting, right? And you take Cam Thomas because it's unrealistic to ask a rookie in the NBA to help you on defense. That just doesn't happen. It's more realistic, it's very realistic, in fact, to ask a rookie, matter of fact, almost any rookie, to give you double-digit scoring and shooting off the bench. That happens almost every year with multiple guys, even on down draft years. And Cam Thomas may be the best pure scorer in the draft. Not the best player or even the best spot-up shooter, but the best pure scorer in the draft. And the second thing, why this would make sense, local branding. This may shock some of you, but the casual NBA fan in Louisiana has lost their excitement about Zion and the Pelicans. All right, the honeymoon is over. It's been over. It's time to win. It's time to shit or get off the pot. Now, Pelicans fans, they have a mighty fan base in New Orleans, but it's small. Mighty, but small. I would dare to say some people in the city care more about LSU than the Pels. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to dare to say that. I'm just going to come out and say that. And I'm not pulling that out of my ass either. I think that's just based off of analytics and viewership. But again, LSU's been around for over 100 years. That's different. But if you get an LSU guy on your team, especially a good LSU guy or great LSU guy like Cam Thomas, all the locals around the state say, hey, an LSU guy to a New Orleans franchise. That's awesome. This is one of the many things that the NFL has over the NBA. One of the many things. College stars that are more well-known within large fan bases like LSU and are very likable before they even go pro. So all the LSU fans that do not give a shit about the Pelicans, and I mean do not give a shit about the Pelicans, they'll go, oh, wow, Cam Thomas, he's now signed with a local Louisiana sports team. Oh, more reason to follow the team. Local branding is important. It's something that the NBA needs to embrace more. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook in the description link below.